ora whānau, welcome to episode Whitu.
Kia ora. This episode we're going to be talking about cosmology, the stars. We have a section with Māori astrophysicist Dr. Pauline Harris, and we're doing a bit of an introduction to Matariki to lead us into our last episode 8.
Last week we visited with the awesome wahine Meteria Ture and her exhibition Tūrua Po, Astronesian 3000.
And this exhibition primarily asked the question, what if Māori occupied space? Hope you guys enjoy.
Kia kite.
Ko mai kai te manga, ko kopua whara te awa, ko tā ki timu te waka, ko Ngāti Kahungunu me rongo mai wahine oku iwi. Ko Pauline Harris ahau, no te whānau whānga, no te whānau taumata hoki, he mihi mahana ki a koutou katoa. E te whare e tū nei, tēnā koe, e te papa takoto nei, tēnā koe. Te mana whenua o te wahi nei, tēnā koutou. Ki ngā tangata no ngā hau e whā, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora everybody, my name is Pauline Harris. And that little bit of kōrero or thing that I just said, I acknowledged the gods of the sky and the earth, the people in this local tribal area. I greeted them, and I also greeted all the people who have come from the four winds, so everybody who has come from everywhere around the world. So just to give you a bit of a background, I'm actually an astrophysicist by training. So I did my PhD at Canterbury in neutrino physics with Dr. Jenny Adams. And then after that, I got involved. Actually, during my PhD, I wanted to learn more about Māori astronomy. I'm going to talk to you a bit about how and why it's important for us to learn about our traditional knowledge and in particular Māori astronomical knowledge, which is very important to a significant number of the population of our country. And then after my PhD, I'm actually part of the MOA, the microlensing team, so hi MOA. So we do modelling at Victoria as well with Professor Dennis Sullivan and Dr. Arno Korpela. So, but my primary role and my primary funded role is to do a project around the collation of Māori astronomical traditions and knowledge, and also around the Māori moon calendar. And we try and tie in scientific aspects that will be useful for us to utilise in order to investigate our traditions and be able to understand and recreate knowledge that may have been lost. So it's quite an exciting thing to do. And I found that it's a lot healthier too for me to go in and start learning our traditional knowledge as well, instead of sitting in front of the computer screen doing modelling all day. So in terms of Māori astronomy, the kind of real big push for revitalising it occurred in about the 1990s or early 2000s. There came about this resurgence of the practice of the Māori New Year, which is based on primarily the stars Matariki, which is Pleiades, and the star Rigel Puanga. Okay? So we know that the stars rise, that we can see certain stars at certain times of the year. So these were the two stars that we used as the indicators for the Māori New Year, and that occurs around about June. So with that huge revitalisation resurgence, we started to embark on trying to collate our astronomical knowledge. Yeah, and so we started that. I thought it would be a 3-year postdoc, and I think I'm at year 7. I can't remember. I've lost track. That's okay. My friend laughed at me and he says, oh, it's at least 20 years, Pauline. So, yeah. So I think it's important for us to just go through some of these aspects that I went through before. So remember that Māori astronomy is infused in different areas. So we'll start off with the cosmology and we'll talk a bit about the calendrical systems. So our cosmological origins start off from something called te kore, which is... some people call it the nothingness, but really it's kind of like the potential for something to form. And then what came out of the nothingness was te po, or a whole series of phases called the night. They have the They go like te pō uri uri, te pō tango tango, te pō te kitia. There's a whole, like, I can give you 4 points up here, but there'll be pages and pages of what actually goes in, and then a whole lot of information that fills in those pages as well. So multiple layers of information. And then from that, we say that the Sky Father and the Earth Mother came about, and they actually were trapped in their embrace in love, and they procreated and had many children. They had about 70 children. So of those 70 children, a lot of their children were the ones that ruled or up in space. So we have, for example, the god of the forest and the creator of human beings is Tāne Mahuta, or the god of the sea is Tangaroa. If you go to Hawaii, it's called Kanaloa, so they changed the T to the K's, R's to the L. And Kane is their god of the forest, I think. So what they say happened is that these children were actually trapped in their parents' embrace, and they plotted to separate their parents and basically rip them apart. So there's a whole series of narrative around the different eons of time that it took to push them apart. And so when they were actually pushed apart, in some of the narratives it talks about how it's Tāne Mahuta who actually adorned his father. So in this we have Il, which is, to some they say, is the supreme being, or the supreme god. That's debated whether or not that's actually real or an introduced concept from Christianity. But they say that Il instructed another god, TAIHOA, which could be Sirius, the star Sirius, to get Tāne to fetch the baskets of knowledge. And within one of those baskets of knowledge contained the sun, moon and stars. And in order to do that, he travelled up the 12 levels of, not really heaven, but 12 levels of something. You know, sometimes it's hard to translate it properly, but 12 realms in order to fetch those baskets and to fetch the sun, moon and stars. In order to understand our relationship with the stars, this is something we try and, we can say, oh, well, we're all made up of stardust, and from a scientific perspective, yes. Okay, but from a Māori perspective, or a traditional Māori perspective, we were created by Tāne Mahuta, who was the god of the forest, and he mounded some clay and blew life into her, who was called Hine Ahuone, and then they created humanity. Whereas the Rangi and Papa, the Sky Father and the Earth Mother, created these two people over here up the top that then created the sun, moon and stars. Okay? So that's our relationship in terms of that model, if you want to call it a model. I like calling it a model. It's just different people's interpretation of their understanding of the universe. Yeah. So in terms of how the sun, moon and stars got up into the sky, it was actually Tāne who went to go and ask his cousin, I forgot his name. Well, he went to ask one of his cousins to take up, use his canoe to take up this basket up into the sky. So they went up into the sky and they went and started putting all the stars nicely into the sky. But then he kicked over the basket and then the stars all fell out and spread out across the sky. So he left them there. Yeah. So that's how and why they look like that, spread out across because he just kicked it over. And then they left the waka, or the canoe, up there in the tail of Scorpio. Yeah. A tamariri. It's called Te Waka a Tamariri, which is the canoe of a person named Tamariri. So to give some sort of understanding about just some of the main constellations and the main star groupings that Māori had understandings of. So this is Te Mangaroa, which is the Milky Way, and Te Mangaroa is also known as Te Ika Maui, which is the fish of Maui. It's known as the parent of the god of the sea, and also it's named after some other entities, one of them in particular for my tribe called Paia. But that's a whole other story. We won't go into that. We have the sun, which is, we personify not just our environment around us, but we personify the stars and the sun and moon. So the sun was of masculine form, so he was a male. He had 2 wives, and so his first wife was Hene Raumati, which is his summer wife, and then he also had Hene Takurua, which is his winter wife. And that has to do with different stars in the sky. I'm still getting my head around that, but that's okay. And there's a whole lot of legends and narratives around the sun and the slowing of the sun to do with Maui snaring the sun and slowing it down. Are there many Kiwis in here? Was it? Maui. Slowing down the sun. We learned that at school. And then we also have marama, which can be masculine or feminine, depending on which narrative you read. But in this one, it's not a man in the moon as such, even though the moon will be personified as masculine or feminine. But there's actually a woman in the moon called Rona, and with her, she's there with her cabbage tree, tikauka tree. And what happened in that one is that Rona was walking along and she was going down to collect some water in her calabash down at the river, and the moon was lighting her way, and then the clouds covered the moon and she looked up to the moon and basically called the moon a cooked head, which is a big insult. And so the moon reached down and grabbed Rona and then dragged her up, but she was trying to hold on to the cabbage tree, and then they dragged her up and she ripped out the tree as well, so carried them both up into the tree. So you can give that a go and see if you can find Rona and her cabbage tree. Yeah, because some people can. I kind of think I've seen it. It's hard when people don't show you, and because there's not many people around that know where it is. Here's Sirius, which is called Takurua. Hine Takurua, one of the wives of the sun. And it also could be rehua as well, so that's just variations, tribal variations.
Let us be woke.
So, on the horizon, Puaka Matariki.
Yes.
Hi, so,
tell us what's up.
Is the program?
Well, Matariki's just set.
Yep.
So,
Oh, yes.
Awesome.
The terminology is helical. So, if you think about a DNA model, it's a double helix.
Yep.
So, it's 2 spirals.
Yep.
So, helical means spiral.
Cool.
So, in the way that the stars move through the sky, the cluster of Matariki, so it's not a constellation.
Mm-hmm.
Constellation is a group of stars that we as humans have drawn
Yeah.
circle around and said they're related.
Yeah.
Cluster is a group of stars that is actually related. So the Matariki cluster was formed at the same time. So all of the stars that we can see and name 9 to 12, there's millions of them. So it's like this giant astronomical event. That star cluster in our sky through the year, it moves down. So if you track the rising and setting of the sun through the year, you'll see that it does a kind of infinity sign pattern. So does Matariki. So it's just dropped down below our horizon in that direction, and on the 25th of June it will pop back up again. So and this is the pre-dawn sky that we will...
Oh.
Yeah. So just before dawn, so just before the sun rises in the east, in the northeast, the European name for the marker constellation is Orion, so the pot. The 3 stars along the bottom. My favourite. The 3 stars along the bottom of the pot are Orion's belt, but for us it's not Orion's belt, it's Totoro's belt. 1, 2, 3, ... Straight up to Puaka. and straight across to Matariki. And Puaka's significant here because named Puanga in the Taranaki and Central Mountains areas in the North Island. So the Western tradition is we can see Puanga for most of the year.
Yeah,
and then
it's true.
As the seasons fade, Puaka fades from view. So doesn't actually drop below the horizon so that it can't rise in the pre-dawn shifting of the sky.
It's just further away.
Not so much farther away because it's millions of light years and here and there is, the way that the...
So brightness?
It's brightness depending on the season. So it becomes clearly visible around the same time. So they're midwinter markers that are reliable year in, year out, no matter what the weather is, that the patterns of the stars shift only incrementally every year. So not visible year to year. Over millennia, say a 10,000 year block, there will be moves. So that's when you start getting your markers in Stonehenge being significant.
Yeah, right.
They're over tens of thousands of years that
interesting.
The summer and winter solstice change. So they're marking off those changes. So, humans have been observing the star. It's the daily, nightly, free show.
And Rangi last year, and hopefully he'll do the same, is that so the first time when Matariki rises, he does the readings for the year. So it depends how...
Yes.
So
when do you think that'll be? Like, will that be June?
It's true for the space that he's reading it in.
Yes.
Yep.
And so wherever he's reading it, he will interpret and
Right.
I see
what you're saying.
Ideally, you're reading the stars with clear visibility on the day that they reappear. But so say the weather's terrible, well, that's got meaning.
Yeah, of course it does.
And so you'll try again the next day, and you've only got a few mornings,
like a window.
to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, and then because it's in the tangaroa phase of the moon cycle, so Matariki's there, it's already come back into the sky, but it's not appropriate to read it until the moon matches. So I don't remember the Latin terminology, but it's a solar, lunar, stellar thing.
That's amazing.
All aligned. Yeah, and these are going to happen year in, year out, but it's just that intersection of linear.
Yeah, so we're just talking about linear, and I was just thinking I was pretty obsessed with astronomy and time travel and physics. I remember writing a paper about Einstein, going through the library, reading everything I could about Einstein's special theory of relativity. Yeah.
Oh,
Carl Sagan.
Yeah.
I was quite obsessed with space.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting to me that my favourite stars in all of the constellations that I've looked at for my whole life, that's Northern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere, because I spent a long time in the Northern Hemisphere, is the Puaka Matariki stars. So to me that's really, and it was really noticeable to me when I lived in the Northern Hemisphere, how much I missed.
Yeah.
I would just be like, I feel lost. I'd look at the stars and I'd feel lost because that familiarity wasn't there.
I think that maybe that's the reason why this particular group of stars, the star cluster, is so important to humans everywhere, is that everywhere around the world, at some point in the year, they are visible and significant.
Yep.
And they are in nearly, from what I can see.
So they look different.
Yeah.
So they're in the Northern Hemisphere, they're the other way around.
Upside down and back front.
So it took me a while to figure out where they were.
Yeah,
and then when I did, and sometimes because of the city pollution, light pollution as well, that clarity is not there like in New Zealand as well. Totally.
I think not being able to see something because of human-made pollution is...
It's like a slap in the face. Come on.
Yeah. Wow. Well, yeah. But
can't see me.
Like the TT season we've just had, apparently is unusual, late, warm, windless.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's really affected the crop. For
wow.
Want of a word.
Wow.
Pun intended. Yes, so there is climate change. So and I'd asked Rangi in his last lecture, are the tohu reliable? because
good
of
question.
Climate change.
Good question.
You know, kowhai flaring
But
early.
isn't that part of it?
Of course, this is the conversation.
It's like
that we
reading the
need to
environment as well as reading
I believe
the stars
this is
and
why
the
it's
lunar and
absolutely beautifully timed.
Yeah.
That we are looking at our celestial does not change to these things that our ancestors have said because of this, therefore that. In our modern context, that's no longer reliable. So those whakatauki about long hot summer because the kowhai is flowering at this time, or long hot summer because the tikaka are flowering at this time. Those things aren't reliable anymore because it's long hot summer anyway.
Yes, well, yeah, our cabbage tree's flowering again.
Yeah, same.
Half of it.
Same.
Mine too.
And the birds have been going nuts on the trees all around ours. And I'm just like, what is going on?
And Nangi said metal flowered twice up north.
Whoa.
Got lots of toys at the moment.
Yes, so
That's
many.
lovely.
And
In Wellington,
Puaka.
there were so many tuis. They were everywhere.
But it's the new normal, isn't it? So someone asked that question of Rangi Matamara at his Royal Society lecture recently in the University of Otago about how we've not had instrumental views of the night sky, even though we have had better eyesight in our past because we've been looking farther. Nowadays we're all getting myopic from being on screens right up close all the time. And he did say, use it or lose it, people. Keep looking as far as you can so that you can see that far.
Yeah, that's so true.
A young fella asked him, so we've got all these names of these stars that we've been able to see. So technology had, the Hubble telescope, etc., have made us able to see farther. What do we call those stars? And he smiled. It was, for me, his smile was like, well, we just give them names. Like we do with everything we name.
yeah,
Totally.
That was certainly how I interpreted what I was saying.
That's
but
really
just
cool.
that week he'd been talking about the black hole that had been photographed for the first time, and he'd referred to it as Whiro,
Whiro, yep.
yeah, the darkness god, the one that Whiro is
consumes everything, isn't it?
yes. He's the one we avoid in the new moon when there's no moon at all. That's Whiro. That's the time to do nothing.
Yes, stay inside.
Yeah. Yeah, but, practicalities like there's no light, so you're more likely to have an accident while you're out pottering around outside at night.
Oh, man. And when you're in a non-electricity environment, that is so real. I mean, that's what it's like for me when I go home. And there's like the full moon. We're out doing things. As soon as there's no full moon, we're just like, we kind of just like cling to the...
Starlight's not that bright.
Well, I remember, last year went to Beverley Begg Observatory. I'll put a link because they have really cool open nights. And we're looking at Saturn, and it blew my mind because I expected Saturn to be, the rings be like this, but it was on its side. And I was like,
oh, well, yeah.
He's like, no, that's normally how it is.
That's
not in the book.
That's right.
Yeah, they always flip it.
Yeah. I know.
So it's like that instead of like that.
Yeah, I was like, wow, okay.
I wonder
there you go, there's a perspective.
I wonder if they draw it like that so that you can see.
Again, it's to make it linear as part of the universe. It's to make it.
But if you look
because
at it
how
that
do you
way,
draw something?
Yeah, how do you know that it's not fully like that? A sphere of rings, another whole nother layer rather than just a.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I like that there's been an international kind of agreement that this black hole has got a Hawaiian name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't remember. Can we splice in a picture and a
Yes,
name?
Yep,
sure
we can.
Because the main telescope is on one of their sacred mountains.
So this thing that I found
Oh, great.
is from 2017, posted by Kiwi Conservation Club. I meant to share it yesterday, I forgot.
It's a great club if anyone's interested in getting their kids really involved.
Really?
In,
Oh,
their
cool,
magazine. You know, in old school 70s and 80s, we used to get comics that were like club manuals.
So I think I'll share this as well then. So it's the 9 Stars of Matariki.
The one that we can see at the minute.
This is from 2017. So it's from June, 25th of June
says, on Sunday, 25th of June, we started our 2017 Te Iwa or Matariki, the 9 Stars of Matariki celebration. And then it's got, look, a little thing of the stars, the 9 stars, and then it's got a little what the stars are, the names, and then like this one is Waiti, watches over our freshwater environs.
Yeah.
Our it's really cool. Yeah. I was just like, man, I stumbled upon it yesterday. I don't even know where.
When in this linear construct, I'm really interested, and always have been, since I was a teenager, in the idea of one moment after another. This hasn't happened, that is never going to happen again. Before I went to uni and did stage 1 philosophy and learnt about existentialism and being in nothingness and being in the moment, and then before I travelled to Asia and learnt about Buddhism and mindfulness and blah blah blah, I'd suspected that everything exists all at once.
Totally.
So it's useful, eh? Like, I got to be somewhere at 10 o'clock.
I have to do this thing right this moment.
Yeah. Letter A goes before letter N goes before letter D.
Yeah.
But
it's a construct.
Yeah. And recently in Western astrophysics, they're talking about how when you look out into the sky, you're looking into the beginning of time. The farther out you go, the farther back you go.
Ooh.
And I'm like, yeah, and how many other civilizations figured that out how many thousands of years ago? But it's all there all at once. All of those moments in time coexist together right now.